Do you scrap your entire routine because you can't fully commit to getting everything done in that routine? You just didn't have enough time? Or do you skip working out and exercising because you only have 15 minutes and not the full hour that you really want? Well, if either one of those or something similar applies to you, then you're in the right place and this episode's for you because we're going to explore how to stop letting perfection be the enemy of your progress.
You want to stop letting your days slip away and start leading your life with intention and purpose to pursue your full potential? Then you're in the right place, my friend. Welcome to the Claim Your Day podcast. I'm your host, Nick Mazie. Here, we stop just managing our demanding lives and begin to actively pursue our best lives, rooted in our values and purpose. Each week, we'll discuss practical strategies focused on becoming intentional with all that we do so we can live and lead well. Together, let's make today count.
Hello, my friend, and welcome. Welcome to episode 58 of the Claim Your Day podcast. Glad you're here. Glad you're joining in. You know, this series that we're starting a brand new series. It's going to be a short one, just 3 episodes. Or as I have it planned right now, we'll see. Sometimes I make adjustments on the fly. But right now, it's just a short series on all about, 5-minute momentum builders. If you only had 5 minutes, how can you build some momentum? Because I mentioned it in the very beginning, that little intro part, we want to stop letting perfection be the enemy of our progress. We have to get intentional so that we can make progress. We're not going to be perfect, and we definitely don't want to wait until conditions, timing, and all the other things are just right before we get started. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to take just the few minutes that we have to be able to build a little bit of momentum. We're going to take the few minutes that we have to make a little bit of progress because we can build on that progress. In one of these episodes, we're going to talk about how it can compound over time. We're going to talk about how to get started so that you're not just waiting. You're not waiting for anything to be perfect. You're not waiting for anything else. And you almost set that bar really low so that you can get started and make progress, and then you build on it. You don't keep that bar low, but it's that consistency that you build over time that's going to allow you to continue to make progress and continue to improve. But we got to make sure that we can get started. And so with these 5-minute momentum builders that we're going to talk about, it's going to help you to get started and also to keep going. So you're not creating more barriers for yourself that just make it more difficult. If you haven't yet, make sure you go to nickmazie.com. I have an intentional choice guide right there for you. It aligns with just about all of our episodes here, of what we talk about. Because it's about being intentional with what you do so that you can live the life that you want to live, and have that impact that you want to have, find that fulfillment, really ultimately to just live your values, lead your life, and have and live a life of significance and meaning. To do that, we have to be intentional. We have to make sure that our actions are aligning with what's most important to us, what's most important to you, your values, your family, all those good things. And that intentional choice guide can help you to make sure that those things are getting aligned. So you can go to nickmazie.com, check that out, use it. More than just check it out, make sure that you use it. Okay. On to today's episode. Let's get right into it. As you know, a lot of my material, it does connect with John Maxwell. If you're familiar with his stuff, great. If not, highly recommend you check it out. He has a number of different law books. The one that a lot of this episode, it's really related to the Law of Intentionality. And that's in his 15 Laws of Personal Growth book. See, when you want to grow, you want to improve, you want to make any kind of progress, what's most important is that you start. It's most important that you start. Not that you're perfect, no, and definitely not waiting for perfection, but you have to get started. And that's where today's 5-minute, or this episode's 5-minute momentum builder is really going to help you to get started. As I mentioned in the very beginning, I asked you a question, do you scrap your entire routine because you can't commit to fully doing it? Or maybe you ever skip exercising and working out because you only have a few minutes and not that full long block of time that you really want to get into it. Well, that's what you're doing there. If that happens, is that you're saying that since it's not perfect conditions, timing, or I don't have the perfect amount of resources, whatever it is, if it's not perfect, then you're not going to do it. And if that's the case, then you're not going to make progress. And you're actually letting perfection be the enemy of your progress. And we don't want that. You don't want that. You want to be able to make progress, right? You want to be able to make progress. So to make progress, well, we have to allow ourselves to start even when it's not perfect. So there's three different points that I want you to really take home in this episode. Three different points that are going to help you to begin to get started, to get a little bit of momentum and to move forward, even when the timing's not perfect. That this first point I want you to know, and it's a myth of the grand gesture, and it's really deceptive. It's really kind of sneaky because if we think of a grand gesture, we think about a big thing. You think of a lot of progress, a lot of momentum, a lot of improvement. That's that big grand gesture. It's that massive action. And yeah, that's good. That's grand. But oftentimes, especially if you're busy with work and family and other really important priorities, there's not a lot of just extra margin and bandwidth to do these grand gestures. And you don't want to put things off until you can make this large leap. Because small steps will take you farther than large leaps. I've said this and I've said this again and again because small steps you can do. You can manage them. You can start them at any time. It could be just this 5-minute progress that you can make, just 5 minutes to get started. And those small steps over time, since they're easier to do and they're easier to be consistent, they're easier to compound, they'll end up taking you farther than just this large leap that you're trying to do. So beware of the myth of the grand gesture. So that's the first point. I want you to know that if you whatever you want to make progress in, it doesn't have to be just grand gestures. Small consistent actions are going to really be able to move you forward. And those massive actions, they're not sustainable. And oftentimes, having to only do those huge things, those grand gestures, really can ultimately lead to the burnout and quitting. And that definitely doesn't help you succeed in any area. So beware of the myth of the grand gesture. That's the first point. The second one, I've kind of briefly alluded to it some already, is that the second point is really just think about this 5-minute rule. 5-minute rule. It might be 5 minutes, give or take a minute. But what is the minimum viable effort that's required for you to get started or required for you to maintain just a little bit of momentum? What's the littlest amount of effort that you can get started with? If it's exercising, can you do just 5 minutes of exercises? Some push-ups, chin-ups, burpees, whatever you want. Now, 5 minutes of burpees, that's no joke. That's I don't know if that's a small step. It's pretty intense if you try to jump off and do 5 minutes of burpees straight. But I got a little tangent. My apologies. But what's that littlest possible amount that you can do just to get started? Talking about exercising in the very beginning, I said about, if you only had 15 minutes and you didn't have your full hour, a lot of my exercises are 15 minutes. I break it up during my work day, use my lunch break. But by the time I do everything, and get ready and then work out and then get ready to go back to work, sometimes it's only 15 or 20 minutes that I have of actual exercise. And let me tell you, it compounds. And when I'm consistent with that, like it really does. It helps me stay in pretty good shape, active, relatively strong. I'm not trying to, toot my own horn or anything like that. But just on a consistent basis, just those few minutes of exercise, it really does make a huge difference. Rarely do I have a whole huge block of time to use. So what the area of life that you want to make progress in, one of the areas that related to your values that's meaningful to you, is something holding you back that you just don't have a large block of time to be able to make progress in? Well, use this 5-minute rule. What's the smallest amount that you can do just to either get started or to maintain? Because maintaining is huge. You can avoid breaking up your consistency streak by doing a little bit. I have a reading habit. I read every night. And let me tell you, when I'm going to bed and it's later than I really should be going to bed because of X, Y, and Z or the family, this, that, or just really need to spend some time with my wife. And so we went to bed a little later after watching a little bit of TV and hanging out on the couch, something like that. I'm still going to read. Now, I might read one page. That might be all that I have in me, but you know what? That's that minimal effort that I can do to maintain my streak. So keep that in mind. It does not have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can do just a little bit to either get started or to keep it going. And that's huge because over time that'll build, and we'll dive into that in the next episode, how that compounds. So those are the first two of the points that I really want you to know. Beware of that myth of the grand gesture. Use that 5-minute rule. Just what's that minimal amount that you can do just to either get started or to keep it going. That's huge because that goes into solidifying that habit. I really could do a whole series just on that point number 2. That I'll go on to the next one. The next one is really the start line principle. We're going to look at this and really just think about those first 5 minutes. Like, where you're going to compare this up with the second point, the 5-minute rule. Just think about getting started. Getting started. So maybe you want to, exercise for longer than 5 minutes, or maybe you're doing journaling or reading, and you need to have at least 5 minutes of this, or planning the meals for the week. Whatever it is, whatever you need to get started and be able to make some progress in. And look at just those first 5 minutes. And look, I love it. My watch has a timer on it. I know that sounds not super techy for productivity hacks, but it is huge for me. I cannot oversell this. All right. I set a timer on my watch. If I need to get started on doing, especially something that I've put off, maybe I've procrastinated a little bit. Look, I'm not perfect. I own it. I've been putting off doing something, or I'm really struggling and I just don't even know how to do it. The list goes on when I use the timer on my watch all the time, pretty much. And what I'll do is I'll set a timer, because now what I've done is I've just committed myself to doing it for just those 5 minutes. Great. And then afterwards, after those 5 minutes, this is really good, especially for those tasks that you're putting off. Just commit to those 5 minutes, set the timer, and go. Because what ends up happening after you get started, you might get a little bit of momentum. Just like we talked about on that point number 2, right? You use that 5-minute rule, but now you've got a little bit of momentum, and you might be able to continue on. The ideas might come flowing. You're trying to plan something out. You're trying to create something new, whatever it is, and you've got a little bit of momentum going, and so you might continue on past that. But you're giving yourself permission to stop after those 5 minutes are up. So if you do need to move on to the next task, great, you've made a little bit of progress. Or maybe you just explored what your next steps are going to be when you can get back to it. But setting that timer can really help you to get started, because you're not going to get better. You're not going to accomplish anything unless you get started. That's all there is to it. It's like I love the saying, you can't steer a parked car. You've got to be moving forward in order to go in the direction that you want. You're not going to be able to improve unless you're moving forward at least a little bit. And these points right here, they really help you just to get started and to get a little momentum and to start moving forward. We create barriers in our minds because things aren't ideal. We say, hey, we can't get started. We're going to wait till timing is better, or I have a larger block of time, or more resources, or things are a little bit better. Whatever it is, there's a million reasons. And what's scary is that some of the reasons are valid. It's the reasonable excuses that are the most dangerous ones. So cut out some of those excuses. Give up that myth of the grand gesture. You can take small steps. Use that 5-minute rule that, hey, if you only got a little bit of time, a little bit of resources, a little bit that you can do, go ahead and do it. And then commit to that starting line. You should use that starting line principle and zero in on what you have to do just to get started. Just get started. If you're able to continue on past that, great. If not, you've given yourself permission that you've gotten started, and you're able to move on to the next thing once that timer goes off if you need to. No worries. Don't hold it against yourself. Go ahead and move on. But what you're going to do with these 3 simple points is it's going to help you to begin to develop the habits. The habits are going to be able to carry you forward. All right. So that's it for this episode. You're going to be aware of the myth of the grand gesture. You're going to use that 5-minute rule. You're going to use the starting line principle just to get moving forward. And then today, the Claim Your Day challenge for this episode, for this week, is you're going to choose one habit that you've been putting off, and you're going to commit to doing just 5 minutes of it today. You're going to commit to doing just 5 minutes of it today. This is your Claim Your Day challenge for this episode, this week, and you're going to choose one habit that you've been putting off, and commit to doing at least just 5 minutes of it today. You can do it, my friend. I promise you, you can. And just you know to get moving forward just a little bit so you can make some of that progress and live that life that you want to live, one with meaning and impact, align with your values. That's what it's all about. I want you to be intentional with this, and a great way to do it is to help develop this new habit that you've been putting off. Well, thank you for listening to the Claim Your Day podcast. Glad you're joining in. Make sure you catch the next episode in this series. We're going to keep moving forward. It's going to be all about this consistency and how consistency is the key to compounding and really reaping those benefits that you want for your life. Make sure you stay tuned for that. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And as always, you can go to nickmazy.com. I have show notes. You can listen to the podcast there, as well as grab that resource, the Intentional Choice Guide. Well, thanks again for listening. Take care. Can't wait to talk to you again in the next episode.